Well, the vibes are high here tonight on a Tuesday, but the hunt for the playoffs is ramping up at an incredible pace. My name is McCormiel. With me is Cash. UT Chattanooga, High Point Esports, our main matchup here tonight, at least for the 7:30 slot. We're going to be going to the Southeast Top Cut for this matchup, number 19 versus number 18. Before we talk any further, Cash, how are we doing tonight?
Doing well. He said vibes riding high. I've had a lot of good conversation coming into tonight about this matchup, and so I'm excited to get things rolling.
Absolutely. Well, I said there's the top cut of the Southeast Division, and by top cut, I truly mean that. We have tons of teams inside of this division that are going to be not only tough, but can absolutely make deep playoff runs. You look besides UT Chattanooga and High Point, you've got Penn State, Florida State, Barry Cod, Concord, FGCU, all teams that not even from last year, but already this year have raised many eyebrows and look to, again, have deep playoff runs. We'll have to wait and see which of those teams comes out as the front runner in front of the Southeast Top Cut. Both of these teams could as well, but head-to-head overall, gotta look to UT Chattanooga. They do have a blemish in terms of record, 10-2 on the season thus far, but that hard point looking oh so spicy, 15-1.
That is quite the impressive hard point record to have here, and you kind of glance down further, look at the 9-4 search and destroy and the 5-3 control. Really, that S&D been that struggle mode for them thus far.
This one could go all the day to the map number 5, but High Point University undefeated, 11-0, 12-0 in hardpoint. Again, really the only scratch on the track card that they have there is Search and Destroy with one loss at 7-1, and then the control record of 5-0. This is a very strong HPU roster, and it's all thanks to really the incredible team play that we've seen already this season, but at least they have a lot of moving parts from last year, which has really helped them out. But before we talk any further about that roster specifically, we have to talk about the Mox COD roster, because you look no further than Click and Red Chase to the side of Mox COD as two players who are not only going to lead this team to the future, but of course, come playoff time, you got to start thinking about playoff Red Chase. Regular season Red Chase, you know, he's still great, but playoff Red Chase is a different breed.
Yeah, this team has so much potential going into, as we're looking forward to the postseason again, and Click and Red Chase, just two phenomenal players, but rounding that out in Slim and Superior, also all four of these players come together, and you start to talk the postseason and different things. It's definitely going to be a four-man effort that wins you these games. It's hard as the season goes on for, one man to like take over and do the whole thing. It's got to be a balanced attack from all four players. So yeah, you have your pop-off and your star-studded players in Click and Red Chase, but as you have a four-man, well-rounded roster, this is a good one to have.
Opposite side of things, High Point University, their roster, again, nothing to scoff at, nothing to sneeze at. Sexton, Devilish, Freedom, Brewing, all four players have not only shown incredible successions in terms of year-over-year performance, but you look to Sexton, the leader, the incredible slayer for High Point. Really what you expected a Sexton every single match is to be that fast, aggressive player, almost like an appeasy role take it, where he's always around the map. Every corner you expect maybe to have a gunfight against Sexton. He's not going to slow down. Pacing is not an issue for this High Point Esports roster. It's why they continuously are able to attack all the time, following in, of course, the motto of being the Panthers.
And that's so important to have in your leader. Not every team's best player is their leader, but you get that out of Sexton, and that's just such an awesome player you can look to know, hey, we can bring things in if things start to get a little out of hand. We can also look to him to have that performance and slay where we need as well. So really just all around the ideal leader you'd want on a squad, and especially leading these three, it doesn't get better than that.
Well, we've got our teams. Let's go ahead and take a look at the maps. Unfortunately, you won't see much variation overall inside of this best-of-5 series, but it is going to show one thing and one thing alone. Who is better at Tuscan and maybe Berlin as we get further down the line? That's right, triple dose of Tuscan to start things off on all different modes, of course, though. Hardpoint, Search and Destroy, and Control. Then, of course, the double dosage of Berlin at the very end of the series, should we need to go the distance. And, well, Cash, as we talked about beforehand, absolutely, I think, and you think as well, this could go way past 3 games, even into that map 5. Specifically talking about UT Chattanooga's success in hardpoint, but their falters when it comes to the S&D.
Yeah, so the Search and Destroy, they do have the potential to lose those, but in the respawns, they have been so good. So if they want to find themselves in that Game 5 situation, it's going to lean the way of High Point with that 9-4 record for the side of Chattanooga. Definitely something that's worrisome if HPU can push that to the late game, if that's what's needed. Because, again, Chattanooga, they've looked so strong in their respawns. Of course, High Point, they're undefeated in the respawns as well. If this one goes the distance, that definitely does lean towards High Point a bit, just because Chattanooga's been struggling that much in S&D.
I mean, you look back to the recent Top Cut match that the Mox COD roster had. They ended up losing, unfortunately, in a rough 1-3 loss where, they lost the S&D, but more importantly, it was only the hard one that they were able to take against their foes. Overall, we always see hardpoint being a real strong suit when you have a team that can slay together. S&D always can be a struggle though for some of the top teams. We even go up to all the way to challengers, and we can see S&D at times is a real struggle fest for a number of teams. But once you're able to go ahead, hone that in, really start to refine every aspect of your S&D gameplay, that's when you start being able to win series undeniably. And if you're Mox COD, what you want to be come playoff time is undeniable, and that starts out with winning your search and destroys. So against High Point, a very good team overall. Again, they've only dropped one map throughout the entirety of the season. Right now, they're sitting at a 24-1 map count. You'd have to assume that S&D is going to be the most important game mode for them to win in this series, because Mox COD don't look to slow down in the S&D, but right off the rip, well, guess who? It's Mox COD opening with a nice little break, although High Point was able to get the first 7 seconds of time.
Good presence around this P1 site, now playing the U area and cutting these players off out of spawn. We're going to fall in the feed, and that's going to grant mid-map clearance over to the way of High Point as they're going to push through Church, try to cut these players off coming from spawn, and try to get the rest of this time. Still 20 seconds left on P1. That's a good amount of time. No one really pushed up for Chattanooga, maybe one player to make a challenge, but they're already thinking about the rotation. 3 players backed up to Church, P5, and back tank just to make sure no one slips through. So you're going to get the last 20 seconds if you're High Point, go out to about a 20-point lead, but it's going to be Chattanooga who are locked and ready to go for P2.
Turns out the Church Sexton looking to make the frontward assault towards the top. Maybe get some positioning for the rest of HPU as they start to make their way on forward. But Click will find 3 quick kills in succession. That's going to allow UT Chattanooga to set up and maintain P2 for the time being. And towards the top, it's going to be Brewing and Sexton, who are now trying to double together. Red Chase will back off for the time. It's going to be a team kill there. They should go for a 2-1 trade here instantaneously after the fact. It's still about a 16-point game, but Chattanooga, they really need this time because HPU, well, they're there for the break.
And Red Chase staying alive at the stairs plat area, about just enough time for teammates to come in off spawn, flood over through green and radio, and get back onto the hill. So even though they were outnumbered, they play that well. But Red Chase stays alive, values his life, and keeps the team on the hill with 20 seconds left. Still a gunfight going down as High Point have those right hand of the map side spawns. They're just going to send one more person that way, just have a little 1v1, see who can get it. It is going to be Chattanooga to take that, and now it's going to be a 3-man hit, really a 3v3 to open up this P3 to start. 2 are coming through alley.
Red Chase with the hot routes there around the backside was able to get 6 in a row, so that's at least going to be the strafing run. Over towards P3, and of course as they continue to set up, it's going to be another 3-man down. HPU looking to break on the front. It's kind of been the same thing over and over and over again though, as they have not been able to get that north side of the map control to get a little bit of a peak angle that Devil's just trying to go for now.
HPU get in, start to get these players off the point for Chattanooga, and their setup's been so good for Chattanooga. The players that die, they're rotating back from roof over back to the hill to fight and take those challenges as the teammates start to flow in from behind. So they just have good rotation on the hill as they get taken down, and that's what allows them to re-break back into this. Though HPU didn't get that much time off of it, they at least were able to slay the players out and not let the clean time come through in a clean 60 for the side of Chattanooga. But now as you're going this out to over a 30-point lead, you don't quite have the rotation if you're Chattanooga, which is really the first one you've lost of these first 4 hills. And I'm looking to see a quick break out of them. This P5 fight is going to be huge going over here. Red Chase wins it, and now that grants this front of the hill, bottom church clearance for the team to break through.
Sexton spotted 1 trying to hop up towards the top of the church, but Superior perfect nade is going to eliminate Sexton. So now you have the free availability to push all the way up and towards the top. Make your presence known, but of course have that great power position in the elevated position, now allowing a couple of players to pick off all the way in the back. Superior on 5 in a row, Click on 2. High Point Esports, they had the rotation instantaneously, but as Cash mentioned beforehand, it's going to be a quick break from Chattanooga that's going to be able to not only net them 30 seconds of time here, but it should be able to get them the scraps if they're able to get these last couple of kills.
HPU still throwing bodies at it as they have the rotation over to P5. Player 2 and Brewing just sitting there trying to take these gunfights. Teammates are trying to get down the hill, but Click pops 2, and that grants the rest of this time to Chattanooga. No one really going to take any more jabs at it. Just kind of try to cut these players off as they make the rotation over. Players for Chattanooga coming up through plat, spawning on that deep right side of the map. So as it's going to be a 2v2 on the hill, now all players coming down from HPU trying to get on. They are going to win it early, but Chattanooga, they were able to get the break, and with the pinch possibly coming in through fire and roof side, this could be mixy for HPU.
Oh, Click was almost able to escape around the corner, be able to win that gunfight, but it's Freedom and Sexton who pair for two. A 3-2 trade now, though, for Chattanooga should allow them to get some positioning in the hill. As Superior comes up the staircase, Red Chase is there to slide around the corner in a bait-and-switch trade. And now Sexton and the rest of the High Point Esports roster should have the reinforcements there to make a push on in. Another slight pinch play trying to set up itself. They won't be able to get back around the radio to make this a full, true pinch play, but at least pushing from two different angles is going to net them a good amount of time. Finally, Freedom, though, is able to get through the middle of the map, execute perfectly. They break on into the hill, and that should be the final couple of seconds that are going to be all theirs. It's just going to come down to a one-on-one gunfight between not only Red Chase, but Devilish as well, which Red Chase will win, and it'll be a flurry of blue in the kill feed yet again.
And the problem for HPU has been really the slaying. They've been winning their rotations, but if you look at the scoreboard, I mean, not super drastically, but a noticeable enough if you take a glance. UT Chattanooga is outslaying this HPU squad, so even if they get on the hill, whenever they want to clear and get onto it, Chattanooga are able to. They get the kills they want. HPU just struggling to win their ones at the moment, as we already see these players back on the hill, pinch worked in. Some of the spawns coming in out of HPU to grant them clearance back on this, but with 60 seconds down, or being down 60 seconds at this point, really Chattanooga, they're just doing their thing, and 20-9, Click, he's a man getting it done.
Yeah, well, I was just about to kind of comment upon that too. 20-9. You mentioned at the top of a show, it's like, okay, well, there's one player that's always kind of have that pop off potential, but you don't expect Click to necessarily just have the best performance out of anybody inside of the first game by a mile. But with 43 seconds in the hill, has done quite literally everything that he's needed to do for Chattanooga. They're enjoying a nice, basically double up lead on High Point Esports at the moment. With two players, or only one player really being positive right now in Freedom for the side of High Point Esports, you really expect Sexton to have a bigger performance in map number one. But Cash, at the same time, though, you have to kind of admit, this was the map that we expected UT Chattanooga to run away with because their hardpoint has just been so good this season.
You do. It's been immaculate. The question mark for us, as we said at the top of the show, is going into map number 2, how are they going to perform? Like you said, this is no shock here. This is a great HPU squad in hardpoint, but Chattanooga has just been way too good at it for them to drop this map, especially Tuscan 1, that everyone's got more than enough reps on at this point in the season. So they do get into P2 here, but yeah, as we start to look ahead and as I anticipate Chattanooga taking this map number 1, it's really going to be the Tuscan Search and Destroy. That's going to be the big question mark in the series for me.
179-98. Good lead for Chattanooga. First break here for highest points in quite some time, as they go ahead and hold down P2. It's going to be up to these rotations yet again. You see UT Chattanooga on the mini-map starting to make their northward rotation back over towards that next hill, but a couple of players have been able to get out for High Point, namely player number 4 in Sexton, who's trying to be the route man to force the spawns over towards that left side of the map. That's exactly what will happen. Superior, though, who's going to be there first, should be able to pick off one and will. The second couple of players are going to now be pushing around the corner. Brewing will be the next victim. Help from Click there to go ahead and find that kill. We'll finally find the way all the way back in towards the back of the point. Still going to be a frontward assault here. A 1-on-1 gunfight will not go the way of Freedom. Slim is there, but this is a very similar situation that we saw High Point in the last time through, as Chattanooga is going to get another 3 spree for themselves.
High Point just lost all four gunfights on rotation. As you were saying, they were taking that north portion of the map. You see the kill feed go entirely blue. Now they still have had these close spawns, which has granted them time to contest here, but with Click calling in the streak, that's going to open up the hill for the moment. These players are going to flood on in for Chattanooga, and it's just been the rotation battles they've been losing. They can't win a gunfight on rotation, so even where they are maybe a step ahead or getting across the map quicker, they're getting shot in the back and just unable to locate these Chattanooga players and make this more of a game than what it is. Now the lead out to about 100 points. Last 15 seconds of scrap time, evidently going to go the way of Chattanooga. Another P4 hit, and once again, Chattanooga got in at about 20 seconds off the clock, so there was still 40 seconds left for them to get, and they maintained about 30 seconds of that fairly cleanly. So as we see this first gunfight go down at Church, these players are already having to turn around, and as a pinch comes in, it's going to be Chattanooga in.
Another stellar performance from Click, those 3 kills. Looks for a 4th out the door, pre-fire, while you're just going to line directly into the pre-fire of Click. Sexton will finally cut the 5 spree down, but no matter what you say there, 35-15, it's a stellar performance from Click yet again. The superstar from UT Chattanooga, back around the corner. High Point just trying to keep this game alive for as long as humanly possible. But I mean, you look to the trends of this game thus far, Cash. P3 was really where Chattanooga were able to get the majority of their time. The Church has also been great for them as well. So with those 2 hills, the dichotomy of such, you see that they can play a close range hill and a long range hill almost to a T. That's the beauty of this UT Chattanooga roster. It's harmony on both sides.
It is harmony, and it's balanced, and I know the slang doesn't look that way, but whenever you have someone like Click who's dropping 40 in a hard point on Tuscan, that's just such a good approach. But either way, the rest of the players still playing well. He's just eating up every kill on the map. So even though these other players aren't putting up that star-studded numbers, there's only so many kills on the map. Click just happens to be finding them all. So Freedom will pop 3 in the feed, and it's still not enough for them to get complete clearance on this site. Chattanooga, they're just impossible kills on the map at the moment.
Up the staircase, breaking back in through radio, UT Chattanooga looking for one final push here to seal this game away. That kill by Slim is going to open things up instantaneously. The kill on Freedom there. Brewing's going to be the last one to really be able to touch this hill. Teammates around the corner there to help on out. Sexton tries, but Red chases there. 250 to 142. It was never close. This Tuscan hardpoint was ran away with. The Mox will be flying into map number 2. Back here on Tuscan yet again with a big grin on their face and a nice 1-0 lead to start things off in this best-of-5 series.
Click and Red Chase, the duo, man, I mean, they're really fun to watch run around, and still good performances out of Slim and Sapir. I mean, 20 and 21 and 17 and 14, those aren't bad games. You just have your other two players going rogue on the map, and like we said, I'm not shocked that scoreline. Sure, HPU could have played that closer. When the gunfights are going that lopsided, though, it is hard to get any kind of traction on and around the map. Again, it's a search and destroy that I'm most excited to get into. Is this where Chattanooga look to have made improvements? Obviously, this is the one glaring mode you can look at and say, this is where they've got to step up. As we get closer to that top cut, trying to get into playoffs, this is where we need to look at them and say, this is where improvement has to be made. So I'm looking to see it tonight, and what better squad to do it against than HPU.
Well, the good news is for High Point, or I guess the bad news at the same time, is that, well, you finally show rather vulnerability inside of your hardpoint game mode. This is going to allow you to be able to run things back, see what you need to work on when it comes to VOD review, and then be able to say, okay, chalk this one up, let's go next, and then come back next week with a brand new motto and IO for what you really want to do going into the next set of hills, and of course that next set of hardpoints that you have in a best-of-5 series. Either way, looking at statistics, though, can't glance over Click yet again. We'll mention him time and time again. 40 and 17 with 31 untraded kills, also to attack on 1 minute and 12 seconds inside of the hill. Everybody was working together on UT Chattanooga. That's the difference between them and High Point. You see 12 seconds, 28 seconds here and there. Obviously, it was only 142 points that they were able to mount inside of that map, number 1. Either way, though, with performances in the slaying department, nobody going positive, it's almost impossible to win a hard point that way unless your name is TK and you're back in World War II.
Yeah, it's got to be at least one or the other. And like you had mentioned, hill time, apart from Freedom, really no one able to get too much time again. Only 140 points accrued, of course, but still much more balanced attack from Chattanooga and the slaying as well. Not as balanced per se, but again, players going positive, getting their way and getting their kills in around the map. That's what led to success there, and just led to that scoreline.
Fun map number 1 if you're a UT Chattanooga fan. If you're a Mox God fan, it's great for you. If you're a Panthers fan, well, you're hoping the S&D is going to be your saving grace instead of the series to tie things back up at 1 apiece. But Cash, top of show, we said that this is a series that can go the distance because of S&Ds. That's where we go to next. We're going to hit on it time and time again because UT Chattanooga have not shown sufficient improvements just yet in order to make us say they could be a defining S&D team going forward in the future. Now, we just saw this past weekend, Optic Gaming decided they wanted to win a couple of their search and destroys, and I don't know how long. I don't think I've ever seen them that good in S&D in quite some time, and I know Optic fans are happy about that, so I'm not going to compare UT Chattanooga to Optic, but at the same time, you'd hope that they would show similar improvements in the same way. HPU, though, again, as we hit on beforehand, Cash, they're just good all around in every game mode, but that vulnerability in hardpoint surely is a shocking one to a lot of people, especially by the deficit they've lost.
It is, because they're still a great hardpoint team. You knew Mox coming into it was good as well. They had an unblemished record up until this past match. So something that, yeah, unfortunate for HPU. Again, when you get with teams this good, you can't be shocked either way. It's just, as we talked about even before we went on the show, was anyone can show up on a given night. Right now it's Click showing up in the respawn. We'll see if that translates over to search and destroy. That's what we need to see, is can this, of course, S&D not being that slay heavy of a mode to an extent, can you replicate that same teamwork and coordination? I mean, with everyone having over a minute of hill time, that's coordination, that's teamwork, that needs to translate in their search and destroy for them to find success. So, one thing we put for the key success for HPU was, this is Mox's weakness, take advantage of that. No matter what the scoreline looked like, win or loss, the hard point, you've got to come out in the search and destroy. Make sure you put this team down. Don't give them any life in a search and destroy, because once a team finds life in a mode they're struggling in, that can be very dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely, especially going into control where, again, Chattanooga hasn't been the most efficient team. They haven't been the most flashy team, but At the same time, when it comes to Respawn, you never underestimate the Mox COD roster. The same thing can be said about High Point, though, when it comes to Control. Again, undefeated in that mode. Is it going to be a little bit different going up against Mox COD? The answer could be yes, but at the same time, it could be no. You can't really look at statistics all that close, especially for the High Point roster. It's not like they were in a very bad division whatsoever coming into the top cut. However, it wasn't as strong of a division as, say, UT Chattanooga. And of course, as we mentioned again at top of show, this is a very, very difficult top cut in the Southeast region. You've got teams besides these two, like Penn State, Florida State, FGCU, Barry Cod, Concord, all teams who are not only established this season, but are even running it back from last year. Think of Concord, placed third inside of the CCL last season. Obviously, the roster isn't the exact same. UT Chattanooga have already played them, but we saw how the stars aligned and the fate got to them there. So, in a series against High Point Esports, taking map number 1 is great. It's a good pat on the back. I don't know how many times we can say it before it kind of gets ran into the ground, but is the S&D going to be improved? You go back to a map of Tuscan where you had success there in map number 1. Let's hope you can do it again.
Just replicate the teamwork. That's where Mox are going to find success. You show you can do it in the Respawn. Make that your bread and butter here on Search and Destroy. I mean, it's a straight up and down map, right? You're going to try to get A control, get that site clearance on the top side of the map, and get the bomb down quickly, I would hope. That's where teams find a lot of success here. When you wait too long, get the bomb down, you let the other team collapse, let big plays happen, get the time on your side as quick as possible. Now, I don't know what the chatter's been like as far as the Mox camp goes. I'd have to guess it's just something like getting those plays together and those strats down, being a bit more decisive. We're going to see them on the offensive side first. It's going to be a 4-hit over towards P5, which is really interesting.
Like an aggressive B hit at the early of an S&D. You don't realize that one's going to be playing inside a radio, though. Freedom reads it off the rip. It was a solo push over towards that left side of the map, and it gets paid off, though, in spades. Superior, as well as Slim, they're going to have to back all the way off through their spawn, maybe wrap this over towards A. But on a map like Tuscan, where you lose 2 players off the rip, it can be so damning to be able to not only have to fight through the middle of the map, but, of course, rotate back over when you don't have the man advantage.
Freedom was just the player on an island for the High Point squad and took down 2. Like you said, that completely shell-shocked around. Now you've got to make this transition over, but I like out of High Point, they've all held their spots. They know they have every lane covered. They're just going to let these players run into their site, so it's going to be a very clean round of defense out of High Point University. You trust your player in Freedom on the island over at B to take out 2. That blows up the offensive play. Now you just wait for the rotation back over. Just a very clinical round.
Not much you can do. You have to push lanes that are wide open. AR is pre-aiming everything in the middle of the map. You already know that the players were by B. The only option that they had was to rotate back through spawn and wait for their depths unless they possibly pulled off a 2 versus 4, which it doesn't happen all that much. So, offensive try now for the side of High Point. They're going to go ahead, establish themselves over towards that A site, a very common hit that we see time and time again. Player number 3 in Slim will be all the way back in towards that A lane, trying to find a few. But click through the middle and the bottom of the church, we'll be able to find that first blood. 15 seconds off the clock. An aggressive challenge into that right corner. Big click. Doing it yet again here in the Search and Destroy.
Bomb down High Point side of you. Click with 3. You know, I mean, if you have to say it, give him the ace, right? He's going to try to wrap around here. Brewing watching his back, but timing looks like it's going to work out for Click here. He's going to run. Ooh. Never mind. Brewing puts him down, so now in a 1v2 situation, yeah, bomb's still down, but I mean, geez, you stand a chance now.
Spot the player out as well. Both of these next 2 will be playing together. You look for an aggressive challenge out towards that left side. You actually spot out Slim. Shots are going to be there. Player number 2. Red Chase just playing through the middle of the map. Maybe challenge back out towards Slim again. You spot the player. Head glitch is yours. You don't know that the player's in middle map. You're just waiting for a flank. You have to play for both angles. And now as you push aggressively, Slim's not going to read this just yet. Around the corner, I thought maybe you get the hip fire shots from the automaton again in the open spray. Good news for Chattanooga. You clutch up the round, though. A very, very, very daunting 1 versus 4 attempt.
And they gave the same look, obviously, to the A side, but it was a strong hit towards A, and it was Click getting 3 kills. So right now, the tail of it's just been how this initial break-off has gone. Freedom picked up 2 the last time around on defense. Click gets 3 here. Who's going to be able to respond and actually get a trade here in the first blood? I think that'll tell if someone's able to get a more successful offensive round going. But if you're on defense, I mean, keep doing it. Keep finding the kills and getting out with your life.
Get over in the middle of the map. Be able to find one oh so perfect onto Red Chase. Nice little set nade is going to open up the round for High Point. Bomb will still go down on the A site, though. It'll be a retake necessary now for the Panthers. Out around the back, Slim's gonna miss some easy shots there, and Freedom wins that with an MP40 at long range. Around the corner, Click will finally go ahead, trade things back out. So it's a 2 versus 3, still down by 1 life, but with only 30 seconds left, High Point needs to make this pinch in the middle of the map happen fast. All the way back from around, gonna be Brewing who finds the first. Click is gonna be there, pistol around the corner, won't be able to find it. A great retake from the Panthers there, containing and corralling over towards that point. Chattanooga lose an offensive round there, and they honestly should have had a 3 versus 3 there. It was just some not great shots by Slim on the flank.
Those missed shots were really unlucky, and then I like how you said that. They just kind of corralled them into this top side of the map, knew where the players were, got the kills that they needed, kept their life situation up, got themselves the round there, so now they're going to go up here. We switch over sides, and High Point playing good hard point right now. I mean, the round that they won was opened up by, or lost was opened up by a Click 3-piece. On 1 and 2 since then, so it's had a different story. Just can't let that big play happen. Try to find a way to slow down and let them come to you. No, Chattanooga likes to play quickly. Try to let one of those kills come to you first.
Always hard when there's a pop-off moment, and you can't really capitalize all that much momentum off of it. Devilish laying down, Click through the middle of the map yet again. They're letting him run rampant through the middle of the map right now. Sexton, I thought maybe, just maybe you lose that gunfight, and Click gets it again, but Red Chase should be there for the trade and will be. So the north portion of the map is now yours. Bomb is down there as well. You have all the control in the world of this S&D round. Freedom will get a kill there, so it's a 2 versus 2, but they're across the map from each other and complete.
Isolated 1v1s are always interesting. Now being in a 2v2 situation, of course, these players out of Chattanooga playing together should be able to isolate this kill, and even if you play the trade, you should still be fine to get in a 1v1 situation. Of course, Brewing, someone who's seen pop a 2-piece in this S&D already. If someone can take this 1v2 in this portion of the map, it is possible, but now Freedom working over, trying to find information on the player. That's going to be the call out where Red Chase is, but still Slim. Even if you can get this one, which you can't, from the top rope, Red Chase going to take that one. Good response from Chattanooga.
That's why people hated Advanced Warfare, is moments like these. You just jump over somebody's head. You can't look up to the sky as quickly as Red Chase is going to be able to hip fire those kills at you. So, great attempt, desperation, but it was that first initial engagement from the middle of the map, and then, of course, getting that high ground after the fact that allows Red Chase not only to get 2 in the round, but a 3rd there at the very end. 3 in a row helps UT Chattanooga to go ahead and take another S&D round. The biggest thing, Cash, though, is in both of the rounds that they've won thus far, it's taken one individual player to find 3 kills. Through the middle of the map, though, aggression here from UT Chattanooga. This time it's going to be Devilish who's forced to back off. Pre-fire shots onto Red Chase.
Ooh.
Click is going to run into Sexton as well. So it's 2 kills off a very aggressive push that unfortunately don't go their way. And a miscue there with a stun is going to allow Sexton to find the 3rd in the round. 1 versus 3 from Slim.
Sexton sitting at 6 and 3, kind of flown under the radar. I know that big 2-piece helped get him there, of course, this round, but I like the aggression through the middle from Chattanooga. You just don't win the gunfights. It was High Point that was ready for it. And like you said, it was off the back of big plays. And whenever you rely on that, that's where you find, woes. Whenever teams can just have better strategies on offense and defense than you, and you rely on big plays and players like Click, Red Chase to open things up for you. Well, if they slow down or the other team is just outmaneuvering the map better than you, that's where you find yourself in situations where, okay, we've got to rely on something more. We've got to have strats or mid-round adjustments in place to be able to compensate. Yeah, you have a couple rounds, so the scoreline doesn't look too bad, but they haven't been from objective play.
Love aggressive hits from the middle of the map, but you got to tip it to High Point. Played that perfect. Devilish, the first one there, backs all the way off, just pre-fires a couple players around the corner. Sexton plays it well with his teammate. They're able to go ahead, both have double aims on side of the door. You find those first 2 players coming through, shuts down everything from Chattanooga. And then they're stuck with Slim in a 1v odd situation. Sniper going to come out this round, though, from UT. Look back over towards the left. You're just trying to find anything you possibly can. Freedom in the middle of the map. You don't want to allow the Click to go off, and this time you shut them down here. First time they've been able to do that. This is looking like a round where they can finally find themselves a nice cushion with a 4-2 lead.
And the most important thing is you get an answer for Click. Instead of letting him get across to your low fire window, you challenge him in low church before he can get out and across and make a big play. So I like that from Freedom. That's a player I would want to send that way to make a play happen. Freedom's still playing his life so well in the mid area. They know he's down here. Trying to find him is going to be superior. Not going to happen. It's going to be 3 on the round for Freedom before he falls. In a 3v1 situation with bomb down, like you said, this is HP's round to lose.
Red Chase runs into the pre-aim there. And again, you have to tip High Point. You know, that's a big adjustment. Instead of just playing a bit more passive, allowing a player from Chattanooga to be in the middle of the map like Click, you then play it a little bit differently. You sprint to the middle of the map, you play a corner, you wait for Click to get aggressive out towards the middle. And once you don't see that happen, you know that he's probably going to be playing the same place over and over and over again. Because Chattanooga hasn't really switched up their defensive hits, you're able to go ahead, make the camera angle yours, slide in, get the peeker's advantage, get the kill, get out with your life, and then all of a sudden you get another kill across the map. It's instantaneously a 2 versus 4, and then another 1v where you isolate Chattanooga players out. Offense, they lost it the last time, a 2-round lead for High Point. You look to the middle of the map for a potential first blood. Nobody from High Point wants to get too aggressive if the bomb goes down.
I would much rather take the retake where they can. You know, Chattanooga is going to try to press up the map. We'll see what post-plant setup they look to take here. But this is a team where if you wait them out, though they have the bomb down and on offense, and you have to make the play, they still might give you a mistake, and you can capitalize. These players just get a little bit antsy here. Slim, though, going to be playing in the back. Almost missed easy shots once again. I was actually nervous that gunfight wasn't going to go his way, but that's going to be 3 down in the feed. Make that all 4, and what I thought could have started shaky here. And a good retake for High Point. Chattanooga able to answer back.
Lose an easy gunfight once, shame on you. Lose an easy gunfight twice, shame on you. That would have been Clayster-esque when talking about London docks back in World War II. Shout out to the OGs that remember that. But either way, Mox, they clutch up when they need to on an offensive round. I love the play from Slim to sit all the way in the back of the spawn. Wait for a flank to come through. You love plays like that when it comes to search and destroy. 4 versus 4, we bring it back to the top. We see players push to the middle of the map. Sexton's actually going to be able to back off. Superior and Red Chase will tag team in the middle for another 2. This time, it's UG Chattanooga who switched things up on the defensive side, and they're going to be able to go ahead and capitalize it on early. Now a 2-land advantage as we get into the minute left in the round.
I really like that they had 2 people in Red Chase and Superior watching over Click as you went middle. You know that High Point was expecting Click to go middle. You weren't expecting the 2 sets of eyes looking over him there in the mid map. They're able to get those 2 kills. Now in a 3v2 situation, put themselves much better to tie this one back up at 4. And they've pressed through the map. They've really got themselves in a good position here to where they can just find these kills, dip dodge around, and that's exactly what Red Chase does. Now we're gonna look for this other one here in radio. Chattanooga, they tied up with 2 of their own.
Handshake rounds back and forth, an offense and a defense for each team respectively. Another great adjustment, as I mentioned beforehand, though. You got to tip it for UT Chattanooga. Realizing that if you're going to play aggressive in the middle of the map, if HPU, they send a couple players there, you're going to have to fight aggression with aggression. You're fortunate enough, though, because you recognize that the player that's playing through the middle on that back head glitch right off the rip through middle map is going to be looking at the bottom of the church doors. The player that's up top has the freest kill of their life. They just got to hit a couple of shots, and boom, you're knocked off the board. We're back to another offensive round, though, for the Mox COD roster, where they're back on that A site. Nobody's pushed up just yet, and if you're High Point, I would love to see them get a bit more aggressive, but you got to look to Slim, who's playing all the way back. Superior looking for the first couple of shots. Spring will escape into radio. You got to read and some information on the players from the side of HPU.
I'm still yet to go down. This will be it here. So 4v4 retake. And last time this was the case, it really broke out into be a crazy round after the first gunfight went down. Slim's going to pick one there. With the sniper still out on Sexton, that's going to be a big one here. Is now a 3v4 retake. Going to have to go down. Brewing's going to get picked in the mid-map too. Yeah, Freedom is able to bring it back with Click watching over the bomb. This is going to be a very hard one to break into, and you don't have much time to work with.
Click almost is able to find the second, but Devilish escapes with the life. Slim up top in the top of the building. Has the sniper out. Don't know exactly where Devilish is. They're pre-aiming the spawn, so they kind of have a good idea. Chase, awful timing. Dips out. Now Slim can watch from the top. No time to go ahead and get that defuse either. So Mox COD, you do what you need to do in order to secure yourselves another round win. You win a 3rd in a row. As the HPU side of things have now lost 3 straight rounds. Cash, I credited them for a couple adjustments earlier on.
Yeah.
Now it's their time to do that once again.
They do, and like you had said on defense, you kind of wanted to see them get more aggressive there. Ever since that first look that Mox COD threw at B, it's been A every time on offense. And so maybe like to see them get a little more aggressive and challenge that. You have Click accounted for in the mid-map. Obviously, you know that they could have some eyes on him looking at that. But now we're going to see a 4-hit out of High Point. So here's going to be the offensive adjustment. It's going to be a 4v2 on this site. If they can bully these players out quickly, win these gunfights, and get the bomb down, they could be set up for success, but it's going to be Red Trace popping too, and that's just, it's almost like what we saw the first round. That just stops everything.
Well, you check the wrong door, they stack up, and Brewing's able to go ahead and find 2. So this makes things a lot more interesting. You spot one on the top of the radio, you jump back across, and now you have confirmation that the player is still going to be watching that. You don't know where Slim is. You now know one's still on the radio. Are you going to make this push out? The answer is no. An aggressive challenge back. You want to be able to isolate things down into a 1 versus 1. You don't exactly know where Slim is. All the way in the back of the spawn. It's looking like a control round. You're going to get stunned, though. Information on the player. Slim, all you have to do, hold the angle. Brewing wants this gunfight so bad, but against an automaton, you're not going to be able to get it done. Chattanooga, 4 straight rounds after some adjustments. When they were down 2-4, they're going to be able to take the search and destroy for what seems to be the first time against an admirable team in quite a while.
And there were a couple, I mean, we got 10 rounds out of it, and there were a couple, pretty well objective played rounds. Like you said, even earlier in the game, a lot of that was just relied on big plays. I mean, that round was immediately flipped on its head. Once that 2-piece was popped on that site, it seemed like both times the squads decided to go over to the B site. It was the defensive side being outnumbered and still somehow walking away with more kills after that. So big plays by the island players. And yeah, that's really what this S&D was for me. It wasn't, the cleanest, the most clinical strats and objective play, just big plays behind players. And Chattanooga, they took advantage and capitalized and won there.
He's a success, top of show. UT Chattanooga had to win a search and destroy in order to win this series. The first one, though, is even better than anything else. So now you've got yourself a 2-0 lead. We take a look at the statistics one more time here. There really wasn't that big of a disparity between both of the rosters. It was just clicking a few rounds where he was able to get aggressive that opened the floodgates for the rest of UT Chattanooga to really make plays around the map, specifically in Red Chase, who had a huge play there towards the end of the game to secure themselves that P5 hill. And of course, as those players started to push out, they just couldn't do anything after the fact. Brewing tried as he might to be able to clutch that round up, but in a 1 versus 4, it's 9 times out of 10 going to be almost impossible for you to do. So, Cash, overall thoughts on the search and destroy? Anything surprising more or less for Chattanooga than what we saw out of HBU?
Only slightly surprising in the sense that it was more balanced as far as the kill death goes for High Point versus the respawn. But again, just Click and Red Chase just carried the momentum that they had. They also led the search and destroy. So we know these are the best players for the squad. That's not too shocking. The fact that they have been able to carry that over and let big plays be what carried them through it. It was Click to start, Red Chase to end it.
Yep.
Being able to rely on those players is wonderful. I still would like to see a little more objective play fleshed out with these squads. But I mean, when you're going head to head against squads as good as these, especially in this top cut that they are in, sometimes you just gotta play bully ball and try to clear people out with kills. Chattanooga and MoxCOD, they have the gunning to do that. So again, things you can improve and learn and look to do better as far as objective play goes. You can't teach gunny all that much, and that's what MoxCOD has. So if you can rely on it, you may as well.
In the back of my mind in the search and destroy, I was sitting there, I'm like, okay, they're up 4-2. This is playing as predictable as ever, this series. We were like, okay, it could go 1-1 since UT Chattanooga aren't that great at S&D. All of a sudden, it was 4 straight rounds, and now we're going to a Tuscan control where UT Chattanooga have the possibility of not only 3-0ing High Point, but High Point taking their first loss of a series throughout the entire year of the CCL thus far. So, we have a lot of action left inside of the series, and of course, for the rest of the night here. But as we step away and take a quick break, we'll reset this and come back with the maps and everything else that you need to know about the Tuscan control. My name is McCormiel. With me is Cash. We'll be back after a short break.
Kill, and look at him now. He's got a...
Well, it's been a fun series thus far. If you're a MoxCOD fan, for the Panthers, it's been anything but. The hard point wasn't all that close. The S&D looked like you were in the driver's seat, and then Jesus took the wheel and crashed into a bridge. So, overall, it's been an enthralling experience, at least for UT Chattanooga, simply because they won that search and destroy. But a 2-0 lead inside of the series right now is good enough for match and series point. We go to a Tuscan control here, Cash, and the biggest question on everybody's mind is, will High Point Esports be able to start a reverse sweep, and will they stay undefeated in the mode?
That is a huge question. We had our question for the search and destroy. Can MoxCOD make adjustments and get a win? Check that box. Now we look to High Point to have a response here in the control. And honestly, with them being undefeated in the mode, again, at the start of this, I probably would have said, yeah, they probably take the control. Given how the hard point went and the fact that they were undefeated there, I'm not so sure right now. It's Chattanooga. I mean, of course, a 3-0 is the most ideal way you want to win win a series. They set themselves up so wonderfully. You take the search and destroy. That was a big question mark coming into this. You take the first hard point off of a team that's sitting 12-0 in hard point coming into tonight. If you're MoxCOD, again, I know it sounds obvious, but really there's just no better way for them to kick off the series. They put themselves in a wonderful position to close this one out here against a very good High Point University squad.
You know, a few weeks ago, I had the pleasure of watching UT Chattanooga on broadcast and getting to cast over one of their games. While I was watching them, the biggest thing that stood out to me is there was a lot to be desired in the series. Although they won it, there was a lot to be desired in the series in terms of everybody stepping up on a consistent basis, map after map. Thus far, we've seen just that. Obviously, at the beginning of that search and destroy, you know, there was a few players that were dropping a couple of donuts, mainly Red Chase, but you saw what he did towards the latter half of that search and destroy, completely made up for that slow start that they had. So when everybody's firing on all cylinders, this Mox COD roster is not to be trifled with. But for High Point, the biggest thing that you have to note upon them is that they've showed up kind of slow in this series. It's been the complete opposite. Whereas UT Chattanooga have been flying and firing on all cylinders, High Point have not. So if they can do that inside of this control here, they can step up to the plate and conquer their terrors. They could easily go ahead and force a map number 4.
They could. Freedom's really been the one for High Point who has been the player across both modes that we've seen thus far. We talked about at the top of the show, Sexton's got to be the one to have a big series, being the leader, being the general slayer for the squad. Needs to come out and have a big series against a team, like you had mentioned, with all 4 players that are this good. Had a slow night so far to start. Hopefully can turn things around and get some traction here inside of the control. And a respawn, you're going to get a lot of gunfights, so take those. But Freedom definitely needs a bit of help. Of course, Brewing stepped up at times in the search and destroy and in the hard point. But going into this, it's definitely Sexton home looking to get this team back on track.
Uncharacteristic slow start from Click, although it's only 2 deaths, no kills. Uncharacteristic. Sexton, in the middle of the map, is going to be able to make quick work. Red Chase sitting in the corner. They're going to be able to take them off of that A point. Still an extra minute, though, to go as the A point does get secured. That can start working their way over towards the B point. See a lot of teams struggle with this time and time again, and especially with High Point Esports being so good as a 4-man roster. They can attack from every single angle possible around the point and communicate a nice pinch play without really even having to talk to one another.
Flat clearance comes in, players fly onto the hill, and Freedom has a big gunfight to win that he does not. Red Chase is trying to play his life. Have a teammate look over him, top plat, gets a lot of damage dealt, unfortunately doesn't equate to a kill. Sexton pops 2, sitting at 6 and 3 on a 3 streak. A wonderful way to start here, and as you had mentioned, Click with that slow start, Sexton firing on all cylinders. High Point, they look good to start here on defense. They just have to hold for a minute longer, and they're up 3 lives.
Good timing there from Click on a little flank. Cut the player that was trying to cut off part of the map. Slim through the middle. The rest of the team now making their way back over towards the B point. They were close to getting that first bit of progress on B. They weren't able to get just that. Slim now into the church. Freedom on a flank play throughout the rest of this UT Chattanooga roster. Inside of the hill, the contest is going to be there. Red Chase had 3 different players to work with, but it was Brewing who was all the way on the back long angle with the automaton who's going to take care of that player. 11 versus 11, 55 seconds left. About 2 more good hits from the Mox COD roster on offense. High Point has done such a great job of holding them out as Freedom will pop yet another 2-piece.
Finally getting some help again. I keep mentioning Sexton. It's just how much better he's playing in this respawn just to start in this first round. Holding off these Chattanooga players, Slim, Click, popped a couple of 2 pieces here and there just to try to grant any kind of clearance. It's just being held off very well. Like you had mentioned with this High Point squad, the teamwork that they're able to play with, and even like you said, without seemingly communicating it, it's almost just like automatic. They just do it in such synchrony that looks effortless, and the respawns, they do look good, and this is different than how that hard point ended up panning out, because it just looks like they're flowing around the map much better on defense. Their communication seems to be a bit cleaner. Given that it was a slow start, Red Chase pops 2 here, makes this one interesting. High Point, they've got to clutch up.
Last hit here from the side of UT Chattanooga. Sexton looks back to the hill. It's going to be Slim who wins the one-on-one. Around the left side, you got a few players now making their way back on over. Slim, who was on 7 in a row, now has full streaks to work with. First bit of progress. 3 versus 3. Freedom. Huge one-on-one. You pre-fire back to the door. You got to get to the point. If you're Red Chase, you just got to fly down that ramp. Sexton, though, from the top ropes is going to be able to fly from behind. Catch a couple of them off guard. HPU, after losing that A site and having the low man advantage, are able to go ahead and be triumphant in the first round of the control. They'll take a 1-0 lead.
You do have full streaks, as you mentioned, if you are on the side of Mox. Very important to save, I would have to guess, for an offensive round. Defense is pretty run-of-the-mill here on Tuscan, so if they can hang on to that one, that's a win for them to be able to go into an offensive round with. And if you're High Point, you want to pull that streak out early. You don't want to let them hang on to this as the game goes on. Force it out of them and make them have to use it here on this defensive hold, but kill feed goes back and forth 2-2. Freedom having a really hot start.
That's such a hard gunfight to take, but Freedom just makes it look so easy.
Yeah.
You're fighting an automaton who's already killed 2 of your players, who's got a hot hand on a head glitch that it's almost impossible to rip somebody off of, but you do it anyways. As you now look back over towards that A site, that last bit of progress should come through as Sexton finds that kill there. It's going to slow everybody down from the offensive push back over towards that site. So now we take our attention back to the B site. Click going to be able to win the first one-on-one there. Respawns all the way back across that left portion of the map, and UT Chattanooga can try their hand at a defensive hold.
Pressed up at radio, P5. Side church door hold. They're set up well. No one quite on back tank. These players now giving their attention over to P5. Have they averted enough eyes? Slim does want a big gunfight there. Was a 2v1 on that side of the map. Players start giving reinforcements, so 3 down on the feed. Fairly clean hold to start. Player does slip through in freedom. They're going to have their eyes on that. As reinforcements look to work their way up, they're going to just try to find an angle and find an opening, try to get a hit. Looks like as freedom wins this fight, it's going to be through church.
Big to note, Slim still holding on to streaks. You'd like to not have to use it on a defensive round, but you see 2 players now making a flank from HPU. Freedom will win the first kill there on Slim. Brewing another one through the middle of the map. So now it's just about collapsing back upon this point, finding these next couple of players on the side of UT Chattanooga. And all you have to worry about at the point now is Red Chase, except of course the respawn does come through and reinforcements are there. So Click and Red Chase, the duo of tandems, all the way back on the site. We'll be able to trade each other out there. 16 to 15 with a minute about left inside of round number 2 of this control. HPU, about 2 more good, maybe 3 good breaks to this hill.
Haven't hit all 4 to one side yet. They still keep splitting it top and bottom, just trying to see what Moxcott is giving them as far as openings go. Haven't tried to overwhelm anything with numbers yet. Top church, they've been able to get up to church and alley with ease. It's just that P5 and plat gunfight that's kind of been coin tossy for them. And with 40 seconds left, you've really got to find a way to make one work. Looks like they're going to try to take this top map approach. A couple players are coming this way. Maybe send one more plat to draw some attention. But really, this could be your last good hit, given the life count of time.
Off-screen engagement goes the way of Slim, but 3 good kills. Now a 3-to-1 trade for High Point Esports allows at least one to get in towards the point. Red Chase looking for a few players, prowling on the hunt, around and from behind. Devilish is going to be there, but a nade from Click is going to take care of the player that's pushing oh so aggressively in towards the backside of the spawn. Click, Sexton. Engagement going to go the way of Click. Pinstripe kill feed allows Brewing to stay alive on top of the patio. And now as Click is on the staircase, they're going to be able to find that last player. Only one more good hit down the staircase. You got no time to go. The pre-aim there, you're just going to give it up. 1-to-1 we go inside of control as the defensive side takes yet another round.
Of course, it's a round win, but it's also just a win within the game for Mox COD. You hang on to those streaks. It did get a little scary there for a second. They were able to get clearance, get onto the point, but like you said, these players, they play their lives well. Red Chase played his lives well. Wait for reinforcements to come down ramp and support them there in the mid-round. You hold on to your streaks, and now you could really blow this one open here and take this offense, because that's been obviously the key to success in control is who gets that first offense. Having full streaks definitely gives you something to play around with. If you want to try to take this B, maybe invest a couple more resources because of the glide bomb, you could definitely do that. So High Point, they have to be aware of that, have to be ready. Plat, that's going to be players wiped and they're on it.
Very reminiscent of what we saw in the first round of the Search and Destroy there. Freedom with 3 players from UT Chattanooga flying out the door. This time, though, it's going to be UT Chattanooga who are well and prepared, but good trades from HPU are going to give them the man advantage yet again. So, is everybody now going to split the site on the side of Mox? You got Brewing, who's now making a flank on these 2 players over at B, so all that information, all that presence that they had pushed up the map going to be lost completely, but you can focus back over towards that A site. Freedom chasing 1 is going to be Click, who's going all the way to the back. Spawn will fall now. Player number 8 and Sexton is going to be the only one back over towards A. Contest in. Progress not going up. Freedom going to try and slide around the corner and will find himself a nice kill there. 55 seconds left in the round as they go back over towards that B site.
I like the play from Devilish. He wrapped all the way through P5 roof, went back to their spawn, threw it and shot a player in the back. So though Devilish is having a slow game, still making an impact on the map by working a flank and pinching these players. You don't have to have the most impressive stat line to make an impact, especially in a mode like Control. You just have to get those timely kills. And Devilish is doing just that, of course, behind Freedom and Sexton, who has slowed down a bit. Freedom still doing most of the slaying work for the team. They're holding on. Players staying alive. 4 Mox caught around this side. It's going to be a collapse through P5 and backside church to wipe these players.
Sexton, Devilish back over towards B. 2 offensive players not making their name known there, but the entire HPU roster white in the kill feed, cutting through them like butter. Back to the middle. Freedom gonna turn around, almost able to find the second, but Superior will be there for a trade. 7 life advantage. They start to make their way back up the map. In the corner, you don't exactly know that Superior is here. You're trying to play a long-range angle. Sexton doesn't want to make the push around the corner just yet. Now, as everybody is all the way back, pushing up the map, here comes the flank on in. There's a contention. There's a three-man swarm, and with 30 seconds left, UT Chattanooga, last time on defense, or rather, excuse me, offense, it was a great push over towards A, and then they had tons of time to play to B. Cash, this has been everything but that.
It has been, and now given the time, I don't believe we're going to see the streak. As we're going to see Slim take a gunfight here, they might just chalk it up and save it for round 5, which could be smart. HPU, yeah, they hold on here on defense. You don't even get a point, which is, yeah, pretty disappointing if you are Mox COD, especially knowing you had the streak. Interested that they didn't end up using that. Sexton picked up a big 2-piece to close this one out. The lives definitely went out of hand here, but now they get clearance on this A site, so it's not over yet. They could use a B streak to open that one up and get clearance over. Kill feed seemingly switching their way.
8 versus 14. It's not out of the realm of possibilities. Would be difficult, though. Click, who's just trying to play through the back of the spawn. Superior in the middle of the map. Now is going to even things out a little bit more towards that advantage that HPU has. They're hit through the middle of the map here. There's player number 2, and Click already pushed all the way through. Fortunately enough, though, for High Point, Devilish is there, snuffing it out, and Freedom will pop a 2-piece. So that's basically going to be it for the round here. No respawns remaining, only 40 seconds left. Sure, it only takes one good hit to get inside of a site, but then you got to go ahead and fight off the reinforcements that come back from the spawns. Cash, I don't know if you picked up on it, but there was a player from HPU that was at least able to get a strafing run. So the big talking point of streaks, at least for Chattanooga, that was in their back pocket, and now also has to be taken in consideration for the Panthers.
Yeah, you've got to think about, of course, the glide bomb is the ideal streak in that situation, but it's better than nothing. At the very least, it could clear players off the point if a situation gets dicey and desperate. So, good on High Point to be able to secure that. Again, that's going to be on Mox COD's mind as they go back on defense, and they're just going to sit back. We're able to get a kill, at least level out that life point a little bit, but they're going to go up here, and yeah, High Point, great defensive hold from them. They let the point go late, or able to hold on for B, and where they were slaying slow in the hard point, that is turned around 100% here on this control.
Cash, big picture here for this round. High Point needs to get as many ticks on their sites as possible. Control inside of Vanguard no longer dictated on kills. We go back to the system we had inside of Cold War, where it's progression that is going to allow an offense or a defensive team inside of round 5 to have that advantage. Either way, Red Chase will open things up with the first blood here in the bottom of the church. Superior with a stun out and towards that right side is going to be able to at least tag up one for some information. Devilish laying down and Brewing play in the corner. Look to go ahead and secure that second tick, but a Slim and Click will go ahead and trade 2 for 1 on their side. Superior will find a third. They're looking for an all-blue kill feed. Couple of toe shots in the leg. Brewing will stay alive, and of course Click there all the way on the flank. That's going to force High Point to spawn out, but they're going to get a nice free hit over towards B, or at least it's as free as it can be once you get Red Chase killed.
And that's one of the hardest kills you could ask him to get, is he's still staying alive somehow in the back, ends up getting one. Yeah, what you thought was free. Red Chase is just so good at playing his life. I know you've complimented this player and just how much fun he is to watch. And even playoff, obviously not in playoffs yet, but playoff Red Chase is different, but late season Red Chase is different. The way he could just move around the map and not get killed, like you said, like an Abizi or a Shotzi to watch, just moving around and valuing his life so much. So it was a free B hit, no longer the case. They are going to get A though, and they're just down 2 lives. Nothing crazy, like you said. The strafing run, don't expect to see it used really on this B site, but hey, at least it's there for you. Players are going to try to work towards streaks. Now if you're Chattanooga, you've got to hold on for a minute and a half. Just a few life advantage, and really hoping you can get to that round 5.
Exum will opt back into the church instead of going around through the spawn side. So it's going to allow the Mox roster to spawn close back over towards B instead of it being towards that north portion of the map. But you can see this is kind of where we were in the last time High Point was on offense. They like to occupy the north portion of the map, then start to make their downward push. The problem is that takes so much time off of the clock and eliminates a lot of the chances that you might be able to have if you push in through P5 back over towards B. So with streaks still on the table here for UT Chattanooga, Red Chase and Click will pair for 2. Freedom in the top will find his second in a row, and now looks for number 3 instead of the church. 3 players streaking on Chattanooga. The one of them will fall, but it's still, they're holding on the defensive side. This has been a good round for UT Chattanooga thus far.
It has, and you kind of alluded to it there with High Point 9 times out of 10 preferring to play this B-side rotation by getting church and back control, and it just hasn't been going their way. Chattanooga's ready for it at this point, and you're only sending 1 or 2 players through P5 and flat, so I think they might find more success. I mean, at least you could try it. They'll four-man hit it through platform and try to bully these players out and hold off the gunfights. But it's going to be 3 more players coming up towards this church side. And like you said so wonderfully, Corn, it's just, it takes so much time. It's almost like turning into a Gabbatu run. You're just making it a more costly run. Of course, that's the unpredictable thing, right? I wouldn't think with 30 seconds left they're sending 3 through church, but they are. And sure, some gunfights go your way, but you've got to be able to play your life, and with no time left, you don't have any room for error.
2 for 2 in the middle of the map. They go back and forth. 5 life advantage for UT Chattanooga. Click bunny hopping around the corner is going to be able to find number 3 in a row. And of course, Sexton now going to be up and towards the top. You want to break through the door as quickly as possible. Cut off some of the rotations. Devilish inside. You know that another player's out towards the right side. Red Chase will take care of that player, though, so you have nothing to worry about. Nobody else going to be able to touch that hill. So we'll see around number 5. Both teams relatively even across the board in terms of the amount of ticks of progress that they were able to get at each site individually. So it's basically a toss-up here in the final round to see who's going to get that defensive side. Either way, with how this game has been dictated so far by defense, you'd have to assume, at least at the very beginning of things, that defensive side should be able to hold on. The only thing that I would have to counteract that with is if UT Chattanooga were on offense, that streak could come into play. Click, by the way, on 4 is also damn close to being able to get streaks of his own.
Chattanooga, I've got to see, them continue to have the defensive hold that they have, especially having this streak at such an advantage and a crutch that you don't want to rely on it, but it's definitely nice to bail you out if you get in a sticky situation. For High Point, they're going to get this early progress over at A, but I got to see a different look towards B. How that last round concluded, you went church the whole time. And then whenever there was no time left, what did Mox do? We're going to right over to P5 because that's the quickest route, and they're going to take it. So it was just an easy read for Mox COD. You've got to give them a different look. And as they get 4 down in the feed, what was going to be a quick A cap is no longer the case.
Piling on the lives right now, 29 to 24. An opening break couldn't have gone better. If you're Chattanooga, is now Click, who's on 6 in a row, is going to have at least a streak to use. Finally, Brewing cuts it down, so that takes the glide bomb availability off the board. Great game for Click thus far, but Red Chase and Slim also backing that up oh so beautifully. It's a great compliment, and I fancy the chances to be able to take this defensive round yet again. Devilish, though, and Brewing are going to be able to fly over onto the B point. Slim's going to be able to use the streak here first and foremost. That's at least going to be able to cut a player off, but a team kill with it could be costly later on in the game. At least right now, though, they've been able to work their way back over towards A. 2 minutes left on the clock for High Point to break back into B. And guess what, Cash? They've got to take a progress to show all their smite while also taking a streak off the board.
A streak that was not effective, like you said. So for High Point, what was a situation where you're unfavored, knowing that they have a streak, knowing that you haven't had success on offense, suddenly that tide's turned. And look at that, it's 3 people coming through to P5 side. Yeah, Red Chase's going to find a kill feed, he's going to get another. Kill feed does go even, so a player is alive, but that's Click once again working the pinch in the flank. Able to cut that player down. It's back to the drawing board. You have a minute and a half. If you try to opt to go through church, that's just going to be longer. I know they know this at this point, but it just hasn't been working. Right now, Mox are just making all of the reads, and High Point are just scratching their heads.
21 to 13. Plenty of lives to throw away if you are Chattanooga, but only 2 ticks for HPU to have to get is slightly concerning. A knee-jerk reaction called the streak in maybe a bit too early. Thought maybe there might be a few players more than just one over towards that B site. It was only a diversion, though, so they could go ahead, capture that A zone, and with a minute left, the gunfights from Church at least have been effective thus far. 2-to-1 trade. You find your way back over towards this B side. Player number 6 in Freedom now pushing towards the spawn side. Sexton at the top. Freedom will find one. Back and forth we go as it's a 2-for-2 trade yet again. But Click, who is playing through HQ, is going to get some unfortunate timing there. Puts the gum down, but Slim with a nice trade. Should be able to find one in the back here just momentarily. Again, it's just throwing lives one by one right now for High Point. That's been such a detriment to this team. And with 1 hit left here basically towards the end of this game and another 2 kills coming in, UT Chattanooga look to run away with this game and take the series 3-0.
The one-off hits don't help at all, but even if you just play the trade the rest of the round out, if you are Mox COD, you're going to win. The life count nearly double that of High Point, and you did what you needed to do. You took care of business. You came in now with no respawns remaining. If you're Mox COD, yeah, I mean, it technically, I suppose, considered an upset. It was 19 versus 18 in the CCL.
Yeah.
But it was a much more dominant win than being separated,
Sure.
by 1 in the rankings. And like you said, this top cut division that they are in, specifically in the Southeast, so difficult. So for Chattanooga to come out and put a win like this on High Point, definitely going to send waves throughout this top cut division.
Mox COD stay defiant in hardpoint control specifically. They show improvements in the search and destroy, which allows them to have a complimentary 3-0 win over High Point Esports. Simultaneously, HPU, first series loss of the season. Again, not the end of the world. They're still looking like a team that's going to be able to make it out of their top cut into the top 8 for the automatic qualification spot. But it is important to note that UT Chattanooga, against a very admirable opponent, were able to not only take an S&D, but a 3-0 series that was convincing at the very, very least. It started with the hard point, went elsewhere, but look at it real quick one more time for the series overall. Take a gander at what UT Chattanooga did in comparison to High Point Esports, and of course then take a look back at our series. But I mean, overall, you look to Click, who had another 40 kill performance here inside of the Tuscan control. And you can't say enough about Click and what he did throughout the entirety of the series, top playing in every single mode. So
yeah, I know. I mean, you said it. You said it all. I mean, 43 is impressive in a control, of course, given the limited lives. But 34 and 31 out of the other players superior, sitting at 22. So again, no one dropping the ball for the side of Mox COD. It's not that we're putting these other players down. Click played so well tonight, but as you look at any of the other stat lines, they're still good enough and definitely impressive from the team. Click's just next level right now. If I'm going up against this Mox COD, that's the name I'm circling, highlighting a million times, saying we have to have an answer for Click on the map. If you can do that, well, you still have 3 other players to handle, but that's a big problem out of the way.
Take a look at our map set one more time here. Overall, 3 Tuscans that were played. 3 Tuscans that went to the side of UT Chattanooga. Again, Mox Con, you can look from the series. It was relatively close in maps 2 and 3, but map number 1 is really where things started to take a turn inside of the series. We came into this expecting HPU to probably win map number 2 in Search and Destroy. Again, it was kind of Chattanooga's weakest game mode overall, but for the respawns to be as convincing as they were at times for Chattanooga, I think that was an exclamation mark to win map 2, and of course that 3-0 series win is nothing to scoff at. So, Cash, any remaining thoughts of this series overall going forward before we send things to a break?
I definitely think if you want to take this Mox squad down, I'm not sure for how much longer we can say S&D's a weakness if they continue showing improvement. And like you said, it gives semblance of what we saw with Optic this week, and you see that turnaround again. Like, not making that comparison, but it's just where once a team that's excellent in respawns figures out their search and destroy, that's very scary. So you've got to try to find another weak spot. Is it their S&D objective play that you can exploit? That's something people are gonna have to watch out for, because if they get clicking and no one can stop it, that's gonna spell trouble for the rest of this division and the rest of the league.
MoxCon, coaches must be happy, players ecstatic, I'm sure of it. Of course, they take another crucial win inside of their top cut. For High Point, their first time to really go back into a series, look at what they need to improve upon, and then re-attack in their next best-of-5 series. Either way, Seymour proper will be coming on next in the very capable hands of themselves. For Rutgers Cotton, Davenport Panthers, that'll be our next match here on the stream. Another ranked matchup between 2 great teams. We'll be on the Bravo stream later, Cash and I, to go ahead and cover that KSU Shenandoah Esports roster. That'll be at 10:30. Either way, we're going to step aside when we come back, a brand new best-of-5 series for you and more College COD.